Okay, in this video we're going to look at a replacement for the default coloured border effect, which just doesn't do what I thought it was going to do. This took me down a bit of a rabbit hole and I ended up making a replacement. Okay, so here's the issue. You have a picture that you want to put over another picture, and you want to maybe zoom it down, and you want to maybe change the angle and have it kind of like so. But what you want to do is put a nice white border or coloured border around the outside of the picture just to accent it. So you come to your effects library and you find coloured border and you see the preview and you think, yep, that's exactly what I want, and you drop it on. You've got a nice white border around your picture now. But if you now try and reposition it, the border doesn't move. And if you go into the effects tab of the border, there's no controls to change the position of your border. So it kind of doesn't work. As I say, at that point I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, and I ended up making my own border that could be adjustable. Okay, so let's have a look how we did it. So basically you've got your picture or your video clip or whatever above your main video. Select it, put your playhead over it and go into Fusion. So first thing we need is the border itself. So to create the border, bring in a background, bring in a rectangle, and view the background in your other viewer. Change the background to whatever color you want, and come into the rectangle, uncheck solid, make width and height 1, and then make your border however deep you want it, and then merge it back onto your picture, and that's basically it. But like the control that we had that comes with Resolve, there's no way to move this at the minute. So all we do is we add a transform after, like so. And then with the transform, we can resize everything and it's all good. Now with the rectangle, if you want, you can add corner radius. But the difficulty we now find is if we have a corner radius, we're still seeing the edge of our picture. So we need to mask that somehow. So to do that, get an instance of your rectangle. So select your rectangle, Control C to copy, click away, Shift, Control and V to paste. So now we've got an identical rectangle. Bring in a background node, disconnect this pipe and merge the media in onto your background, and then connect the merge back to your first merge. Now what we can do is use this rectangle to mask the media in. Make sure this background is set to transparent. So take an output from here, drop it onto the mask blue input of the merge. And if we view this merge node, what you've got is the pictures in the border, and that's not what we want. So come to your instance, and now we need to de-instance some settings. So we're going to de-instance solid. What that does is it lets us change the solid in our instance rectangle without affecting the original rectangle. So we can now make it a solid. And there we have it. The border now cuts and you lose the edge. With putting the corner radius in, what you need to do is come to your rectangle and you need to bring the height and the width in slightly so that your border sits more naturally. Now what I did was I used an expression to get this to happen automatically. So if we put everything back to default, so border width and height, sorry, back to default, not get rid of our corner radius, come to our transform and just reset the size. So now at the moment there's no border width, so if we bring the border width back in, so you've got a bit of a border coming in. Now what I did was I made the height and width for the border equal to 1 minus the width of the border. So go to your rectangle, go to width and height, right click on each and put expression. Now if you get rid of the 1 and then go minus, and then in theory we should be able to pick whip the border width like so, and then do the same for our height like so. So now this border, if you add corner radius 2, works better. So you've got your border and your corner radius and it's not sort of cutting it off to the same extent. Now the difficulty with this is that we now can't adjust the height and the width. So you're stuck with the 1 and you would just resize it using your transform node. But what I also did was I set it up so that this could be cropped effectively using the width and height of the rectangle. To do that, we need some sort of slave control for the width and the height. Now you could right click and go to edit controls and make new controls that would allow you to do that. The other way of doing it is to just use a node as that slave. What you need is a node that has 2 sliders that go from 0 to 1. So you need 2 sliders that go from 0 to 1. The easiest way of doing it is to get another rectangle and use the controls off that second rectangle. So bring it in, don't connect it to anything. And now what you've got is the width and height from this second rectangle that go from 0 to 1. I'm going to pin that so that it doesn't disappear. Now if I come back to my original rectangle, what I can do is I can select the 1, and now if I pick width from rectangle 2, you end up with rectangle 2 width minus border width. Like so. And then we can do the same for the height. So select the 1, pick width, height, like so. And now we can use the controls from rectangle 2 to adjust our height and width. So if you wanted to save this as a macro, you could make those controls available and you can use them to sort of crop how much of the image you want to view. And we can still control border width, and that still maintains this proportion around the edge. The only other thing that I did was I added a slight drop shadow on the inside of our border. So come to your background node, shift space bar and type drop. And this puts the drop shadow for your border, which you can then tweak as you need to. I just think it looks a bit nicer when you've got that sort of shadow on the inside of your border. That's a personal taste thing, you don't have to do it at all. Once you've set all this up, you can save it as a macro, and you can make it available in the edit tab, which is what I did. So I now have in my effects library this Simon's colored border. Now, if we bring this over our image or onto our image, we can go to the inspector, go to the effects tab, and you've got settings for the size of the border, the color of the border. You can adjust the shadow, and you can also, most importantly, because it was the whole point, make adjustments on the edit tab to get the desired effect. If you've come this far, very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate you watching. As a reward, if you want this effect, the Simon's colored border macro, I will make it available. Head down to the description. You'll see a link to my buy you a coffee page, and it will be in the extras tab. While you're there, if you have a burning desire to buy me a coffee, please feel free. Don't fight it. It's a positive impulse. If there's any problems, give me a shout and we'll see if we can sort them out. The only hiccup I have noticed, this effect will work equally on video as well as still images. If I can find a video to show you. So we can bring it onto a video and it works exactly the same. You've got all the same settings. What you can do with video is you can actually keyframe it. So you can go to the start of your video and you can keyframe the position, etc. Come in a bit, reposition it. And you can have it as a little animation, like so, once it's cached, or cached. Sorry, I got told off for saying cached and it's actually cached. Anyway, so you can have it as a video, you can have it animated. For some reason that I don't know, that doesn't work with a still image, or it doesn't work with my still images anyway. For some reason with a still image, if you add keyframes and then move it, you don't get your second keyframe. So these keyframes aren't actually registering for some reason. Don't know why. So if you've got a still image and you want to animate it, select it, make sure you play heads over it, come to the inspector, come to effects, and then click on the fusion, and it will open up in the fusion window. Now this box in the middle is a group, so you can double click it to open it, go to the transform, and now you can keyframe that. So you would keyframe center, size, and angle, except I've done it in the wrong place. So let's assume that that's where we want to be. You can drop the size, you can rotate it, position it, come back to frame 0 or the start of your animation, and then put everything back to default, like so, and then you've got your animation on your still image. As I say, I don't know why it won't let me do it from the edit tab. Weird, but there you go. So that's how you'd animate it if it was a still. Very quickly, if you've downloaded the DRFX file and you're not sure what to do with it, you'll basically end up with a file like this. All you do is you go into Fusion. Doesn't matter if there's anything else in the Fusion window or not, and you open your Explorer window and you just drag this onto the Fusion window. I'm getting a message saying, do I want to overwrite, because I've already got it installed. You'll get a message saying, do you want to install it? Just click install and it will do it for you. What should happen when you install it is if you open your effects library, go to Templates, Edit, Effects, you will see a folder called Simon. Click on that and it's inside there. Since 17.4, I believe, that should happen without having to restart Resolve. If for some reason it doesn't appear, just restart Resolve and it will appear. Okay, that's kind of it. As I say, if you want it, go and get it. It's free. There's several other bits and bobs that I've done over the last year there as well. Help yourself. And as I say, if you want to buy me a coffee, knock yourself out. I would muchly appreciate it. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope it was useful. Hope it's helpful. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.